So Mike Tyson is taking it seriously. Like,
Yeah. Who's one of those other ones that'll knock him out? Like one of those other weird celebrities, like Sean Penn. I'd rather be punched by Sean Penn. Granted, it's still a punch to the face, but it's not the guy who probably
could kill you. Welcome to Scary Mystery Surprise,
where we talk about scary things that surprised us around the internet.
I'm Edwin.
And I'm Michelle.
You've heard of a wild child, Michelle?
Uh-huh. Yeah, of course.
I've never used the term, honestly. I think you're more likely to use it.
Wait, like a wild child, like they're out of control, like they're smoking cigarettes and staying out at night. That wild child.
Is it still common? It's a common thing to say?
I don't know. What is a wild child now, in theory? Troubled teen.
Anyway, yes. Today I'm going to be telling you about these bizarre cases of children that acted like animals, and not troubled teens, feral children.
Did you ever watch that movie, Nell?
No.
I don't really recommend it, but Jodie Foster plays a feral child with a twin language. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it needs to be added to a list. It's like, I think it needed to be watched at a certain time. And that time was like 1995. I don't know. I'm not for or against it.
Okay.
Maybe there's better things with your time.
Well, I mean, I found a bunch of these cases, but I want to start off with one of the most famous ones ever, Wild Peter. We'll start by going near Helpinsen in Hanover, northern part of Germany. Okay, way back in 1724. Again, I don't know what this was like, but I imagine it very acousticy, very dusty, smoky. Also imagine it kind of rowdy. I don't know, Germany always gives me that vibe where like maybe it's rowdy, beer, like people are excited and drunk. By the way, Hanover, this place, is near Hamelin.
Yes, indeedy, our Pied Piper of Hamelin.
So it's nearby. Anyway, some villagers spotted this naked, brownish creature with black hair out there in the woods. And it took them a little bit to figure out that this thing was actually a kid, about 12 years old. But basically, they caught him. And they kept seeing these strange things about Peter. Like, for example, he walked on all fours. He could not learn a language, no matter how much they tried. The weirdest thing is that he ate trees. Not like bite off the tree, but like he would rip off the bark and like eat the sap of it. I don't know what animal does that, but I guess he must have learned it from somewhere.
Also, like, interesting that it was able to sustain him.
Yeah, apparently he also ate flowers and like things, plants and things like that. But they eventually taught him to eat vegetables and fruits, which was kind of like his go-to things.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was taken to Great Britain in 1726 because they wanted to see him and stuff. Like, this was kind of messed up. I imagine it as like they wanted him as an attraction. Like, oh, come see this.
Let's come see the feral child that eats bark.
Yeah, and the public was going crazy about him. Like, they wanted to see him. Kind of like Justin Bieber in 2010 or something like that. And
definitely not Justin Bieber 2024.
Yeah, that was just like, oh.
That's Biebs.
Caroline, Princess of Wales, committed to taking care of him. Like, she kind of took up that role of like, yeah, I'm going to watch out for this guy. She wanted to teach him, to speak and to tell his story. But no, didn't work. He couldn't learn to read or write, which I tried to look up why, and it makes sense. The first 5-6 years of your life is when you can do all these things and watch, what your parents do, and you mimic that. She got a teacher to help him figure out all this stuff. But no matter what, even the best teacher in the world didn't work. Yeah, there was a few things about him. Like, there was actually a condition called Pitt-Hopkins syndrome, a condition identified only in 1978, almost 200 years after Peter's death, which are evident in the curvy Cupid's bow lips, his short stature, coarse curly hair, drooping eyelids, and thick lips. Today, there's a depiction of Peter in a large painting of King George I's court, hanging on the east wall of the King's Staircase at Kensington Palace in London.
Well, you know what? He did pretty well for her being, I don't know, just lost in the woods for his first 12 years of his life, you know?
Yeah, he actually lived until about 70.
Wow.
His grave is just outside the main door to the church in St. Mary's Church in North Church. And there was something about the heritage, some type of association, like trying to make it, so that it's part of the cultural history of the area. So in my books, he made it. This is probably one of the most famous ones I came across. I think this one is the one that freaked me out as a kid because I saw a little illustration of it in some book. When we think of people being raised by animals, what animal do you think of?
A wolf.
According to an article on uselessinformation.org,
where we get all of our facts. Basically a sponsor of this podcast.
Here's how the story went. Reverend Joseph Singh was out on a trip back in September of 1920. It was a missionary/hunting trip through the jungles of India. And suddenly, some of the locals told him that there were ghosts around, and that one of them looked like a beast with the body of a human. And so they asked the Reverend to please do an exorcism where the ghosts were. So he was like, all right, I'll go. And then when he went up, he saw that it was just a huge anthill. These things are huge. I looked up an anthill, by the way. This thing was like 10 to 12 feet tall.
Jesus.
So it was like a little mountain. And it had holes in it and stuff. So like, there's something there. So they built up this little thing so they could go up to the trees and look out to it instead of going straight up to the anthill. And they actually saw something move in there. Like something was crawling. And then suddenly they see a head popping out. And it looked like a dog. It turned out to be a wolf. And then more little wolves started kind of crawling out, thinking they were safe. And then when they saw that there was basically a hunter looking at them, this wolf jumped out towards one of them and was shot and died.
Ugh.
And they say that this was the mom wolf. As they kept looking towards the anthill, they saw two girls. Like they were probably maybe 3 years old and the other one 6 years old. And they were covered in dust. They acted like wolves. And the two girls were named Kamala and Amala. Okay, so these girls walked in all fours and they kept trying to crawl back into the wild. Like they kept trying to go back. This is what it's their life, right? Like,
Yeah.
They want to go back there. They liked being awake at night. They would pee and poop themselves like anywhere. They liked raw meat and panted like dogs. A year later, Amala got sick, and then Kamala got sick. All this time, they were trying to teach them how to act like civilized humans, but nothing was working, and Amala died that September.
Aw.
Supposedly, she was born in 1918 and died in 1921. Almost 3 years after she was rescued, Kamala was able to stand up.
Oh.
So, yeah, pretty cool. And only 100 years later, she became vice president of the United States. So. Oh, man. Supposedly, Singh, the Reverend, didn't want the story to get out. Maybe he was involved in some different way. Like maybe the story didn't add up. This is my own suspicion here.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want the story out, and he didn't charge for admission for people to go see, kind of like freak show style.
Yeah.
He was like, no. But he always accepted donations for the orphanage he ran. So he would still get some benefit off of it, maybe not for him directly, but they did manage to teach Kamala a few things, though. Like she learned 50 words.
Okay.
And one of the techniques that they used was to hang her upside down to increase her brain power.
Huh.
I mean, these guys weren't scientists or teachers. Like, at around 15 years old, in 1929, Kamala died.
Mm.
And 2 years after that, Reverend Singh was told to retire, basically forced to retire, December of 1931. And since he had almost no money, one of his superiors told him to publish what he had written about Kamala and Amala, which he had been documented kind of through journaling, but like in a lazy way. He would get like random sheets of paper, write things about it. But still, it was very It was like one of the first documentations of feral childs being found and what they tried and try to reteach them something. But still, it wasn't a scientific paper, right? It was still just a collection of thoughts, I guess, journal entries. 4 years later, it was published and it was just all right. Nobody really cared for it. But then this Dr. Robert Zing from the US, an anthropologist, wanted to take a hack at it. And that's when the story was questioned. The Reverend Singh said that these girls were nocturnal in that their eyes gave off a blue glare, that the shape of the
What?
teeth were longer. Basically, they're like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
What shade was it? Do you have any documentation of it?
See, now this is where the scientific method being good right here. Because
See, like for your idea, scientist versus paranormal investigator.
Oh,
Imagine
yeah.
something like that.
yeah, that would be great.
This one article from the time in the Calcutta Statesman told a different story about how Singh was taken to see the anthill after two girls were shown to him who were living in a cage. So he kind of ended up tying two things together. They're like, oh, by the way, let me show you this anthill. And then they showed him also the two girls in a cage. And then he just kind of...
What a packed day he had.
Yeah.
Where he like went to a giant anthill and he saw two girls in a cage.
And apparently killed the wolf.
Also, I have never heard in any nature documentary, I have never seen wolves come out of an anthill. That is bizarre to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things because like one of his versions of the story was like that he saved them. The other one, he was shown these two girls in a cage. There's a reason why he didn't want to share this. Yeah, he might have just wanted to keep a story together or just stay out of it as much as possible after maybe figuring out that he may have lied a little bit or whatever.
Yeah, you mean he was put in charge of two random feral girls? Yeah, there might have been something else going on in there.
Yeah, all the records that are from this story are basically from him. So he could have just said anything. It's a tough story to like believe, but still creepy as heck when you think about it. I found this article of stories that pretty much have all types of animals in here. This case from Uganda, this villager called Millie Seba, who was in search for firewood and found a little boy with a pack of monkeys.
Aw, like Tarzan.
Yeah, kind of. They actually found out who he was. It was a boy, John Sesebunya, who was lost in 1988 at the age of 2 when his father murdered his mother and disappeared.
Wow, that went somewhere way different. That got dark.
And this happened recently. Like, he actually revisited the monkeys and they made this photo op where like he went back to kind of where he was found and everything. And there's also this other case of a gazelle boy. This anthropologist from Basque Country was traveling alone the Spanish Sahara, which is called Rio de Oro, in 1960 when he met these people, the Nemadi nomads, who told him that they had seen this boy running on his own or whatever. He was galloping, like jumping across the fields. And he was like, well, that's weird. I want to see this. Where is he? And they eventually found him. The boy walked on all fours. Like sometimes he would stand up and then he would keep, running on all fours. When he would hear a noise, he would do that thing. He was basically a gazelle. They tried to catch him with the helicopter.
Oh, Jesus.
He was so fast. He was fast. He was a fast kid. There was no record of him ever being taken away from the gazelles. He lived among them. This last case, I remember seeing this on the news, actually. Her name was Oksana Malaya, born on November 1983. And she was found when she was 8, 1991, living with dogs. She barked and crouched like a wild dog, sniffed her food before she ate it. And she would smell things from like far away. She could see things, like have those kind of like instincts that dogs have.
Yeah.
But the thing is that her parents were alcoholics and they weren't able to care for her. So they just kind of, living in the poor area, she just went out with the dogs and in the streets. And that's where she lived, in a kennel behind her house. So
it's depressing, but also like speaks to the goodness of dogs. Also, once again, where these dogs were like, we'll raise your child. Robert would clearly try to raise a newborn baby. I think.
There was a whole news report thing. And if anybody out there is interested in finding out more, Oksana Malaya, they try to do a full segment on her and trying to meet up with her father again. It was an awkward encounter.
Oh, I bet.
They try to make a story out of it. But this was a story already. Like, they didn't need to expand it even more.
Where did it happen?
Ukraine.
Ah, okay. That's what I thought.
She talks about her experiences. Like she managed to learn.
I'm assuming she's a massive dog lover.
She likes dogs. She actually takes care of animals now.
Oh, good.
They have videos of her, walking on all fours, drinking water out of a faucet. Like I don't like seeing it, but I mean, yeah.
It's an extreme case of abuse.
In 2006 is when they met up with her father because she was on 60 Minutes. And then her father was like, oh, that's my daughter or whatever. That's when they were reunited.
Wow.
And this girl said, I want to see them with my own eyes because I've been told I have no parents, but I actually do have them. And then the encounter happened and it was awkward. They actually have a screenshot of the thing. Basically, they're both standing in front of the frame. And like the caption just says, I have come. But they're standing like awkwardly looking at each other like.
Yeah, of course. What are you going to do? Hug them? The people that abandoned you to dogs?
Yeah, like
no.
The first time I read about this, I was amazed because I used to think of how would it be to like live out in the woods or like out by a river. And
I know I grew up on Tarzan and like the Jungle Book.
I
want to be raised by Baloo the bear, and that I think the panther's a good guy in that, right? I don't remember.
I think
or
so.
like,
I don't know.
or like have a brother that's a monkey named Cheetah, like in Tarzan.
For me, I think thinking of Pokemon and being out in the wild with a backpack, just starting fires and like, campfires and sleeping out in the woods and figuring out on your own was really cool. And plus, I used to have a bunch of like fishing magazines that I would take from the dentist because they had a stack of them that they were just like, yeah, take them, because I was so into it. It was all into outdoors
Fishing?
and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. It creeped me out when I saw that there might be kids out there or children that are from the woods. Like, that got me.
I would say if being a wild child is a choice, being a feral child is not a choice.
Yeah.
Those children did not pick to be raised by whatever animal took them in. But thankfully, an animal did take them in for some reason.
Yeah, I've seen videos of animals, like with the National Geographic documentaries or whatever, where you see like a tiger not eating a baby monkey, for example. They just kind of let them be.
It happens sometimes if you're fostering animals or if an animal's just given birth and then like another baby animal kind of appears, the hormones will mix. And so like, when a gorilla doesn't smash a baby that's like fallen into its cage in a zoo, or all of a sudden a cat's taking care of a duck or a rat or something like that, like there's things where it's like hormones kick in and it's like, oh yeah, like it makes sense that like if a little child stumbled upon like an animal that had just, at the right time, it would see it as its child.
I guess we kind of do that with dogs, right?
Oh yeah. My son Robert's just emerged from the womb or wherever he was. I don't know where he was. Well, guys, if you want to be part of more riveting discussions like feral children, animals, animal parenting, and we'll be posting that on the Scary Mystery Club. Join us at scarymysteryclub.com for Robert's parenting tips. He's on the couch right now, burrowing into a blanket, so they're going to be good. Go check us out at Scary Mystery Club. We love your support, and you can get commercial-free episodes there.
We'll see you guys there.
What are we going to talk about next? It's no segue.
I don't know. Think it'll be a surprise.
Scary Mystery Surprise is hosted by Michelle Newman and
Edwin Covarrubias. This podcast was edited and sound designed by Sarah Vorhees Wendel of VW Sound.